Good morning. Lieb Goldstein does not have much more time to live. Not only is he currently unconscious due to a heart attack, which he suffered from several days ago, but he also has dementia. Lieb's daughter, Shayna, has a few options how she can choose to handle her father's care. Firstly, she can have Lieb's doctors perform a surgery. This is the only option that provides the possibility of Chaya Olam, the state of health in which Lieb will live for the foreseeable future. She can also leave Lieb in his current position, connected to the IAVP. This is very uncertain, though, as the pump is likely to fail soon. It could also cause new unforeseen health risks of its own. If Shayna chose this, Lieb would be sedated for the remainder of his time. Shayna's third option is to remove the pump and treat Lieb's condition with medication. This would allow Lieb to be awake, though he would not be allowed to leave the hospital. Lieb would likely not live very much longer, as the medication does not stop his heart from deteriorating, but he would live longer than if he was still connected to the IAVP. We believe that the surgery is Shayna's best option.
Above all else, we must do everything in our power to save a life. According to the Torah Yoradea, doctors have the responsibility to do all that they can to help heal a patient. As long as there is a realistic possibility of a meaningful recovery, we should make an effort to pursue it. Surgery holds out the only hope for Lieb's long-term survival and therefore is the best option. Tosafot Avodah Zarah says that the possibility of life is better than a certain death. It is better to risk a life of pain and suffering for the chance of living out his full lifespan. We recognize that this option carries out significant risk, but according to Rav Auerbach, it is worth risking Chayei Sha'ah for the possibility of Chayei Olam. Because he is currently unconscious and will certainly die very soon, the chance of giving him full life overrides a risk of, even a high risk of death. Lieb has dementia. In the best case scenario, he will be completely healed physically, but he can never be healed mentally because there is no cure for Alzheimer's. But according to the Yigrot Moshe, we cannot legally treat his case any differently than if he did not have dementia, because we treat every life with full value regardless to mental health. On the other hand, emotionally, because Shayna is coming to us for spiritual guidance, we must take her emotional perspective into account. We're not comfortable demanding that she go through with such a traumatic and stressful surgery. And we are asking, if the surgery is successful, we are asking her to go through years of caring for her loved one who won't even recognize her. And if the surgery fails, she will feel responsible for his death. Only she knows her emotional strengths and capabilities, and we do not feel as if it is the Moot Beit Din's responsibility to say you must do the surgery when it is high risk and there is, Rav Auerbach says that when there is no hope of curing him permanently, one should not act against the wishes of his patient, nor should they try to convince him of the surgery. The surgery will not cure him permanently, so we should not try and convince him. We should not try and convince her to do it.
Taking the pump out is a secondary best preferable option because it not only preserves Lieb's life, but improves his quality of life. According to Rabbi Reisner, we must choose the best and durable care option. If Shayna could not endure what the surgery may result in, this is her best remaining option. It not only improves his quality of life, but gives him more time to spend with his family, because with this option he will be conscious. Additionally, it will prolong his life. Secondly, according to Yigrot Moshe, when recovery is out of reach, we should focus on improving quality of life. More crucially, medication would allow him to be conscious for his final weeks. This would be the highest priority, allowing him the greatest dignity at the moment. And according to Darkei Moshe, one must not do anything to make death come faster. It may seem as though the pump is causing her to stay alive, and therefore should be left in. It's actually the contrary. Removing the pump will give Lieb more time than keeping it in. Keeping the pump in carries uncertainty about what would happen. The doctors don't know when the pump will fail, and what medical complications will happen, and when. Because the pump has so much uncertainty, and it only bears negative results, leaving the pump in is the least preferable option. Despite his mental state, Lieb's life has its full value. We commend the surgery to Shayna as the best option. as it holds a chance of real survival. If though she concludes that this is not bearable for her, we encourage her to focus on enabling Leib to be conscious for his final weeks by removing the pump and switching to medication. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much. I have a question that's maybe a little bit out of the box here. So you started off saying that you believe that the surgery would probably be the most recommended solution for Shayna, and yet you went on to consider how it may be a very difficult option for Shayna, and can she handle an extended period of caregiving, and what's it going to do to her emotional well-being, and is she even able to successfully achieve this in her own personal life? And therefore, well, I'm trying to not deal with, so where do we go from here? The next thing you said was the second best option was the medication option. But as judges, and you're trying to offer a halachic ruling, but also some guidance as well, how would you guide Shayna? Because you definitely halachically prefer the option of the surgery. What would you tell Shayna? How would you help her to better, in her own life, be able to handle that option, and she should embrace it, notwithstanding the challenges that it comes with?
We think a lot about her emotional state, and with one of the sources we use, we want to be like her own shoes. And what would she do if somebody else is having this decision for her? Therefore, we want her to use the halachic principles that we've mentioned, but also think to herself, and she knows her own limits. She knows, as mentioned before, the heart knows its own bitterness. So she knows how much she can endure as a daughter to somebody who has Alzheimer's and a heart condition. And if she decides that that's too hard of a life for her, halachically is allowed to not perform the surgery, even though halachically it is the best option. It is halachically not permitted. It is halachically not obligated.
How would you help her understand your recommendation?
Well, ultimately it is her decision and we can't make it for her, but if we are helping her to make it, then we would say that we would bring up our sources and explain why we believe that surgery is the best option, because it gives him a high rate of survival, and it's the only option that gives him survival for living a longer amount of time. It is a personal decision for her, because her father would never discuss this if he was in this position with her, but we would explain to her that it's necessary for her to do something that she is able to cope with emotionally.
So you talk about what is permissible in terms of her decision, but in considering the life of the patient, isn't the patient's situation more important than the autonomous decision of the caregiver? Isn't she obligated to think about what is going on for her father as opposed to what's going on for her?
So, because her father has such late-stage dementia, we believe that he's not really lucid enough to really be able to comprehend what's happening. We want him to have the most comfortable life possible, and we believe that that's what Shannon wants also. So giving him the option for surgery, yes, that would benefit him, because he could live out longer, or if they chose the medication, he could be awake for the rest of his life. I think that they coexist.
Also, because he's currently unconscious and he's not able to make decisions for himself. The source of that explains to Shayna that she should make the decision because she is the one making the decision, that she would have other choose for her, and that she believes would be best for her father, but also best for her and her family.
So just following up on that, so we understand that he can't make the decision, he's not participating in the decision, she's making the decision on his behalf. And RAVSAK means that she should be making the decisions she would have wanted made for herself, but often you are focusing on, well, she would have made for herself in that situation. Where do you see that we take other people's emotions into consideration? You brought a lot of sources that we take the risk of the patient, should he suffer, should he not suffer, that's relevant. What the risk of death, the risk of suffering, will he be lucid, will he not be lucid, what are his chances of succeeding this procedure? And then you're bringing in, well, can she emotionally handle it? Where do you see that aside, even if she's making the decision on his behalf, to my mind that means that she's making the decision as if she were him and what she would have wanted as him, not in her emotional stability able to handle that. So where do we see, where does that come from? How do you guide someone and tell them, well, how many people, what if there are 5 children? Whose emotion, how many outside factors are we taking into consideration?
I'm sorry, you're asking how do we balance her autonomy with his risk of his choice?
No, what I'm doing, I'm sort of following up from before, that you're saying, well, the decision should be based on Shayna's well-being, Shayna's ability to deal with it, Shayna's desire to deal with it, is Shayna tired, is Shayna able to deal with an Alzheimer's father for many, many years? And the sources you were bringing were dealing with, well, is Lade going to live? What are his chances of survival going to be? And then bringing an outside factor, well, even if the chances of survival are great, let's say the surgery is going to be 100% successful, but she's just like, look, I've been doing this for so many years, I can't do it anymore. There's no risk of death, the surgery is 100% guaranteed, but she says, look, I can't, I have my own life, I can't deal with him anymore. What would you recommend in that case?
Well, specifically according to Rabbi Reisner, he said that we should choose the best and durable care option, and that may not just apply to the patient, but also to the caregiver. So if she decides even if the surgery is successful, she'll have to endure the emotional pain of having to deal with her father that has dementia and all these other health complications, that she can decide that that's not the option that she wants, because luckily it's okay.
And we also have to weigh not only Shayna's emotional capability, but that influences the emotions of Lead after he has undergone the surgery. If he is being taken care of by somebody who has their own life and is trying to make it in their own way, then they won't have as much time to take care of him, and he does have Alzheimer's and he needs to be taken care of more completely. So it's not just his own, like his emotions are taken into account when we take into account Shayna's emotions.
But if he's going to remain in the hospital, she's not going to be caregiving, so how does that apply to your logic?
So if he underwent the surgery, he would be able to leave the hospital.
Oh, okay, after a certain period of time.
After.
Shayna could get some help and say, there's other people that can be caregivers besides her as well.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to hold her plate.
But
Maybe she needs some counseling.
that can also be an option, but also stuff like that requires resources and financially be a burden. So that's one more thing that she's going to have to deal with and can emotionally put a lot of strain on.
And whoever's taking care of him, it puts more emotional strain on the family than who is actually taking care of him.
Time.